Oh, hey Internet. I just got this t-shirt off the Internet, and this is what they said when I got it.
Welcome to the Internet.
Leave Brittany alone!
Okay, so I'm kind of in a blue mood again today.
The Internet isn't necessarily an extremely modern phenomenon, yet the Internet's abilities and the way we interpret it in this present age through every day mean that we are forever modernizing its capabilities. When Time magazine announced you as a Person of the Year in 2006, they more than accurately pointed out the communication revolution simultaneously taking over the web and world. There was no longer a divide between those who distributed the information and those who received it. Web 2.0 had arrived, officially making the individual's opinion relevant. This ability to respond, debate, correspond and deliberate with information provided to us through the Internet meant an entire new mode of communication had been developed. The audience no longer needed to sit there and receive information. Web 2.0 gave them the ability to challenge information and even change it. This meant that the original information providers, such as media outlets, no longer had the exclusive ability to feed information through to their audience. Their audience now had the ability to actually feed them the information. The fact that this was now the case meant that journalists lost a key area in their storytelling abilities, as they no longer had the exclusive powers in the distribution of breaking news and important stories. And they no longer had the sole say over what was distributed to their audience. The audience now dictated to the journalist as to what they wanted to know about and discuss. This has been a very interesting transition for the journalistic world. Due to the Internet's skills in providing users with anything and everything they want to know, journalists have needed to extend their abilities in order to stay relevant and remain an important resource to the news-hungry world. Yet how do they do this? This has been a key question in the age of Web 2.0, as print is becoming a dying form of news delivery, and most papers are yet to charge for their Internet counterparts. Media corporations are very consistently losing their audience and revenue. However, this is not the only problem media corporations and journalists, as individuals, are encountering when it comes to the revolution of the Internet. Journalists are now being asked to do more with less, and are not given the time. The news no longer has a 6 o'clock deadline. It is a 24-hour system that needs to be constantly updated. This means that journalists are more pressed for time than they have ever been, and that they are spending less time on each story and are consequently reducing the quality of the journalism they provide. With this quality, the professional journalist loses relevance. As anyone can put a story to the web, it's the little things that journalists need to take the time to consider to keep themselves essential to society. Not everyone can make ethical decisions. Not everyone can argue a point, and not everyone can construct an article. However, if these aspects of journalism are hardly considered by journalists as they simply do not have the time to process them, then they might as well pass the flag over to the citizen journalist and leave the business of news to them. But it's not all doom and gloom for journalists looking to the web to produce the news. Television and radio no longer have a hold on breaking news like they used to. Before the spread of the Internet, broadcast companies owned breaking news, and newspapers had to wait till publishing. Now the roles have almost been reversed. Newspapers can break news online, often ahead of radio and television. The most popular form of breaking news is multimedia, as it offers the highest level of information and entertainment. But does it hold substance? We can now access the Internet simply by turning on our mobiles. This means there is no need to get a computer to access the breaking information we seek. It is in our pockets 24/7, making it paramount for media outlets to keep feeding us news on a round-the-clock basis. If the news flow stops, audience will simply turn to another source. This 24-hour access for journalists is probably their biggest weakness and their biggest strength. There is never a moment that a journalist can stop and feel that a day's work is truly complete, as the news is never ending. But even though this never-ending news means that quality might have diminished, it also means that there is always a way for journalists to find a story and produce more information on it at a faster rate than ever before. In many newsrooms now, reporters are being expected to use a variety of new media tools. They're being trained in all sorts of helter-skelter ways to tell stories across several platforms on the web, and also for many, still in print. Having this expectation of production, this kind of quality reporting with video, audio and print on stories seems very tough for them to meet. Newsrooms are asking reporters and journalists to do everything, but the word quality doesn't come into that. Do more with less. It's not a journalistic decision. It's not a decision being driven around to tell better stories. It's the decision being driven by creating stories in ways that are more economical, more fiscally responsible. However, the journalism industry is not in despair. It is simply going through a redefinition. Storytelling is something that humans have done since the beginning of recorded time. On cave walls, now in cyberspace. The new media revolution that we're going through is not about some reinvention of storytelling or journalistic creed. Ethical and accurate information will still rule the journalistic world. It is only that the crowd now has access to these great digital cameras, to this incredible powerful publishing tool called the web, and they have expanded the conversation. They have access to distribution that professional journalists have almost always had. But that is not a bad thing. It is just democracy at its best. To have more people, more input, and more access to different perspectives. Whether it be through a blog created from a small suburb in Melbourne, or the New York Times website, the information will be found. It is just up to the journalists to redefine this information in the best way possible, and to always make sure they give their audience everything they need. If this is done, journalism storytelling will always be relevant.
Hospital. He set up a triage in the lobby, and then from there we transferred patients.
Thank you, and good night.